Hi, I'm Professor Cara Wrigley from the University of Queensland.
And I'm Dr. Murray Simons, military officer with the Australian Defence Force.
And our third co-author on this book chapter, Dr. Aaron Jackson, unfortunately couldn't be with us today. He is dealing with the COVID situation with design thinking planning for the South Australian government. So on a real-time project using design thinking in the field. So unfortunately he couldn't be with us today, but you have the two of us instead.
And so the two of us here today, representing Aaron as well, wrote the chapter from Australia on design thinking and what's happening in the Australian Defence Force. I think one of the first things that we had to tackle as a team was who is the target audience, and that's an interesting challenge and a good question. So,
yeah, I think the target audience for us was not only the international community who are within military studies, but also the Australian audience and the Australian ADF. In this chapter, it looked at an audit or a baseline report on the endeavours that the Australian Defence Force had used design to achieve up until 2021. And from that, we felt that people inside of the ADF should be aware of what's going on outside of their own wheelhouse. And then hopefully this chapter would bring to bear all those initiatives so they could learn from each other as well as obviously the international community.
It's certainly an exciting book chapter to write, and came at a really good time because we have been exploring how to get the message out in the wider audience across the Australian Defence Force. There's been a number of efforts made along the way, but a lot of them have been in isolation. And I think we're right on the cusp now of creating a holistic sort of organisation-wide momentum in terms of getting design thinking, not just awareness raising, but actually implemented as a steady state way of problem solving and addressing particularly things like complex adaptive systems. And of course, we don't speak of solving as such, but certainly positively influencing some of those more challenging situations. Where we're sitting at the moment is actually the Australian Defence College. And here at the college, of course, is the home of educating the future leaders and the future thinkers of the Defence Force. And so we're very excited here to be able to use design thinking in a number of ways to both develop our own courses and to solve some of the challenges that the college faces, but also for the students who are on the courses to learn more about alternate ways of thinking. And so this is used at the highest level of our War College courses, right down to some of the standalone courses and obviously the staff course, which is perhaps the largest course that we run here. So very exciting, and we have a number of initiatives and opportunities where we start off with introductory presentations and the context behind. But of course, that alone is not enough to change the world. We need to get people, particularly the students and the graduates leaving here, going back to the workplace, to not just know about design thinking, but actually to live and breathe it at an unconscious knowledge level, so that they're using it as tacit knowledge. They're doing it without even thinking, because it's just second nature to think differently and to look at problems in a different light. So I guess the last point to think about is the so what. So what from the chapter? What is it that we found as the authors that allowed us to make a difference?
I think overall on these different themes that were coming out, what was evident across all of them was the fact that a lot of the initiatives that were stood up inside of various units, services, departments, perhaps didn't have the same leadership at the helm when the initiatives were really getting to that crucial point because of the Australian posting cycle, the Australian Defence Force posting cycle, which would mean that the leadership model would move on and you'd be posted somewhere else, and so therefore you weren't able to see the initiative through, which has its pros and cons. However, what that meant from a design perspective was that you didn't get that reflective behaviour happening at the end of the initiative to figure out what the lessons learnt were and to disseminate them and to also be reflective on that process and iterate. The fast turnaround of the posting cycle did have an enormous effect on a lot of the various design initiatives inside the ADF. So that's something that we should look to in the future to try and resolve.
And for me, one of the other exciting things about this project and contributing to the book is the fact that this created a snapshot. And so for those of us working in the space of design thinking, particularly in the military design thinking space, we're aware of the journey that organisations are taking from the earliest days of design thinking coming into the military, but we also see the potential. We see opportunity for things that can be even better into the future. And so this book chapter for us gave the opportunity to do a snapshot of what is happening now. Obviously, there's a little bit of backcasting and reflecting on how we've got to this point. But I think one of the really cool things is actually going to be to look at this chapter in another 10 or 20 years' time and realize how far we have come, because there is so much scope and so much opportunity for this journey to go in amazing places. So really great opportunity to write the book.
Yeah, I agree. I had a blast. Thanks, Ben.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Enjoy the book.